Here on this floor, we're going to start with the first session. Please join the stage. Gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you.
Voilà, premier débat et première.
So this is our first debate, our first session. Together with AEDETI, we're organizing this event today, and we wanted to highlight a specific word in the light of those infos given to us by Médiamétrie. This word is core to the expectations of the audience, and we wanted to understand which digital strategy is implemented by European broadcasters. In order to discuss this topic, we have some high-level figures of this trade, and I will start with the Deputy President of Alcatel-Lucent, and then a representative of Open IPTV Forum, the marketing manager of LG France. José Luis Vázquez is head of AEDETI. Welz is head of ARD Playout Center, and the moderation is assured by Olivier Ezratty. Thank you very much. We'll have a debate with two languages, English and French. Most of the panelists will talk in French, except José, who is a Spanish person, and he's going to talk in English with me. For those of you who do not understand English, I think you can listen to the translation using the headset that you can get at the entrance of the room. We're going to talk about those strategies. And there is one first paradox, is the fact that we have only one broadcaster here, Welz, you're representing ARD. The other panelists are delegates from other telcos, standards, device manufacturers, Alcatel or LG. So during this debate, we're going to talk the broadcaster strategies from the perspective from the German perspective, and then we'll also try to understand how those broadcasters may have some so-called win-win relationships with the other players in the industry. So I will start with you, Welz. You're the one broadcaster in the meeting, and you're talking French, which is a very positive asset, I think, given the phone call we had in order to prepare this debate. So your situation in Germany is quite specific as far as you are in the largest European country, largest population. You have a system mixing private and public TV that is rather similar to the French system. And I think that ARD is quite similar to FTV. You were the forerunners in a specific field of interactive TV. You started a project, and then after that, France moved on those projects too. What is the digital TV strategy from the German perspective? This is going to be our first question, and then we'll move on to TV standards and the way in which you can use those new changes on the market. Good morning. I'm going to try to speak French, but then I can also shift to English. The strategy consists first and foremost in making HbbTV, which is bringing people to admit and accept those new techniques and new contents. As far as I know, all German broadcasters now have some digital HbbTV content, and this has been the case for 1.5 years, maybe since even 2009. In 2008, we started and tested those products in 2009. 2 years later, they were already done, so that all broadcasters were working on the market, including major and smaller channels and broadcasters. This is a new aspect, the fact that we have all channels, private, public, and also pay-per-view TVs using those contents. How did this change happen from? For the viewers, we do not have enough information in order to assess their reception. We've got a few figures for France, and in Germany we are currently developing a specific technique in order to collect the viewers' reception, content reception. What was the question again? Sorry? I was asking what or how the content creators, editors, channels, or other players did react to this new development. Well, we found also room for some third-party applications, which means, for example, that if some local yellow page want to develop an application, they can do that. It is possible. They're not binded to a specific contract with a channel. They can choose among a group of TV manufacturers. The app itself is, from the technical point of view, carried out by HbbTV. In the last 3 years, we've seen this major magazine build. That was the first player using this technology and offering everyone the opportunity to take part in HbbTV. Do you have an equivalent to HbbTV AEDETI project? Or are you rather working on the manufacturers' portals? Broadcasters are working on their own channels. I was mentioning the content editors, such as this magazine you mentioned. Yes, because this is the only way to reach the viewers. So the overall amount of connected TV sets in Germany should be rather high. Indeed, we had 55% of sold TV sets in Germany that are including this HbbTV component. We cannot yet give any forecast. We only have the first figures.
Usage. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to switch to Spain now. So what about Spain? So you represent two organizations, because you represent AEDETI, which is more or less the equivalent of AEDETI in Spain, if I understand well, and you are the founder of Mirada, kind of service company in the television business in Spain. So what is the landscape in Spain regarding digital TV overall?
I would say that we are more followers than creators of the technology. Basically, we were watching how the market was evolving during the last few years. Initially, it's public that we selected another standard, MHP, for interactive television, but this didn't fly. So actually, it was first FTC to introduce the HbbTV, and we were skeptical at the beginning, and well, basically you were right in France. So basically we decided to follow the path. It was official in November last year. It was a very, very busy year last year, making broadcasters and manufacturers agree on a common way to work together. We are not finished yet in terms of the deployment of HbbTV profile on the TV sets, and we are pushing hard for that. I would like to be in the same situation as the German market, with more than 50% of penetration would be great. But probably we are over 10 or 15% of equipment capable of using HbbTV services without having this basically upgraded from the very beginning. So we are working at the moment on the selection of the specific tests for 1.5. It's basically protection, content protection, and backdash. And I hope that we will be able to say that we are in the same situation as France and Germany by the end of this year.
And how about collaboration between the various players in the industry? So who are the biggest friends and maybe foes of the television business here in Spain?
Oh, I think it's always a competition market. No? There are no foes, there are no friends. Broadcasters and manufacturers, as in every country, France as an example, are defending their own interests. So as a horizontal organization, we are trying to have basically a common ground that can deploy at a higher rate the services, deployment of services in the market, and we feel that the horizontal selection of an alternative is the best way to go forward. So the only way is to avoid a fragmented market. Fragmentation is our biggest foe. That's what we need to avoid. Fragmentation from both sides. Fragmentation from the side of the manufacturers trying to have their own portals and without basically using a common standard like HbbTV. I don't think that this is the case. I think that we are progressing very well.
And I presume you have the same fragmentation as in France in the telecom space, in IPTV?
Yeah, the same, but IPTV is not so...
It's not so strong.
It's not so strong. It's not so strong. We have big players in Spain, but not on IPTV. All of them are watching if HbbTV is being selected, is being not selected, but used widely by the broadcasters to promote their catch-up services. I really, really have a belief that they will implement in the new boxes in the future the HbbTV profile as well to be able to access to these services.
And in the last 2 years, what I observed is there was a strong fear vis-à-vis Google and Apple getting into this market, sucking part of the advertising business. Was the fear of those two players significant in the changes in attitude, in the strategies around standards? How could you interpret the recent changes?
I think it's over the top in general. It's a fear to not being able to provide your own flavor of your catch-up services as a broadcaster. It's finding your content everywhere without controlling it. It's not being able to control the advertising space. And this is crucial. So it's Google, it's Netflix. We never know. But at the end of the day, what they feel is that people is using internet-connected devices, is using their content, and they want to be the ones providing the content to these users.
We're going to talk later about the second screen.
Yeah.
So Alexandre, on repasse au français.
Alexandre, could you get a microphone? Yes. At LG, you have a specific position. You're a device manufacturer. I think you're the second market leader in Europe and also in the world. I think that you play a vital role in terms of standards. I saw that you were rather a forerunner as regards development of standards. So what is your position as a manufacturer? You're on the one hand an owner, and on the other hand, you're trying to appeal to TV strategies and TV managers. So how is your strategy going to develop? Well, on the one hand, we have this partnership, a live cast but also broadcast partnership, relationship of the channel with the viewer, and on the other hand we have got this internet portal supported by the equipment manufacturer, by the DSL, or maybe used via a mobile PC. So we decided to work on the HbbTV aspect, and this for several reasons. First of all, I would like to bring an important point. The TV set is ownership of the viewer. It is not owned by the TV channels or broadcasters. Yet there are a few standards and regulations in terms of TV signal. We need to look at the fact that users and consumer behaviors are on the side of the viewer. So nowadays, we're looking at the value chain, and we want to support circulation in order to educate and to promote the several services. If you relate all those several aspects, then you come up with today's situation. And when, as far as the consumer may decide to use a connected TV, he then have to connect this TV, which means that we today have a very high rate of connected TV. Only 1/3 of connected TV have been de facto connected. Our rate at LG is 52%, 52% of truly connected TV. Why? Because we want to foster HbbTV and to create a bridge with livecast events. We want the viewer to connect and use his or her device in order to interact with the content. Is that why you can display a 52% connection rate? First of all, we hope that this rate may reach the 70% using HbbTV. And this is why our company, LG, is very much interested in HbbTV, because we want to bring in many supplementary interactive live services that do very much meet the consumer's expectations. So at the end of the day, we'll have a consumer, a viewer watching the program and having a pop-up window appearing on the screen. And then they will have the opportunity to click on the red button, get a picture, some text, and if they want then to watch videos, they will have to connect their TV, which means that HbbTV will drive the consumer to connect their TV sets. In the end, both equipment manufacturer and content editors will benefit from this situation because the viewers will have access to all the broadcasters' information, but also the manufacturer will be in a position to be certain that its TV set has been connected. So if I get it right, HbbTV is activated on LG TV sets. This is not necessarily the case for other manufacturers. At LG, we're still discussing this topic. We haven't taken the final decision yet. We have major debates at internal level. Shall we be the forerunner or not in this competition between several applications? In France, the French perspective seems to be the leading one, so that HbbTV will be activated on all our projects on the French and European market. In Germany, we have a similar situation. We are currently discussing this issue. Most manufacturers did activate this HbbTV as a default option. And now we have 40% of the market at the minimum. This is a major internal debate, and this option should be activated in the coming month. LG tried to foster standards, HbbTV standards, together with other manufacturers. What about this action, and how has the situation evolved? Regarding HbbTV, we did very much promote these standards together with FTV. We did it in September 2010 for the first time at the IFA exhibition. As regards HTML, we had several issues. First, we wanted to have a compatible SDK, including HbbTV compatibility, in order to create links between a consumer using a website, an HbbTV website, and then instead of having this constant need for new applications, we wanted the possibility of opening up a portal so that both systems, HbbTV and the website, might host a same content. So this is this idea of getting a seamless experience. Yes, this is the reason why we developed this SDK, and some manufacturers, including Sharp and Philips, joined us We are currently discussing and negotiating with other players in order to reach a very broad standard in order to avoid fragmented applications and a multiplicity of applications. So we would say that you're trying to bring some interoperable strategy so that manufacturers may all keep the same line, although this on the one hand, but we also want to think in the eyes of the consumer. They do not want to buy several TV sets, one of each for each channel. So our common goal consists in getting a common base for available applications and available to all manufacturers, and then on the remaining part of the market, those remaining 35%, the players have the opportunity to develop specific offerings. So we need a common market, and in order to foster this market, we need a common line, a same standard for manufacturers and developers. You are Mohamed Dadas, Vice President of IPF. This is a forum working on IPTV standards. And I think when you get the mic closer to your mouth, then you can talk, because the sound designer is turning on the volume. So what happens on your side? Is there a possibility that we reach a defragmented market, and how can we achieve some convergence or interoperable situation with manufacturers and HbbTVs? Well, I'll mention standards from the forum point of view and also the orange perspective. Regarding standards, we aim at creating a common standard working from the very onset of content production until the using by the end user and viewer. To this end, we brought together all the players of the chain, infrastructures, broadcasters, content producers, manufacturers, so that each of them may express their needs and requirements. And bearing in mind this common goal of interoperable system, we wanted to still consider the viewer as core to the approach. So we mentioned first the connected TV, and sometimes in our discussions we forget this consumer perspective. For example, a consumer has been watching a program, and then I'm a consumer, I want to move to another room in my home, I want to watch this video on my pad, then I am in a car and I'm not driving, so I can watch the video on my mobile. This is the chain of activity, and if you focus on only one player in the chain, you forget this global perspective. So one of our main concerns was that we have a covering for over-the-top models, and that we could bring in the most commonly used services for Orange and Box and other ones. Building on that, we developed projects enabling to shift from one operator to the other in a very easy way. This included the TV portal, the service provider portal, and all the other players. We made it possible to connect those several portals and offered the viewers the opportunity to move and shift from one to the other one. We wanted to foster the content's interest and the content's appeal to the viewer, as we saw it yesterday, this football game is broadcast on TF1, and even those viewers who usually watch another channel, RT, will then, for this event, watch this specific channel. If tomorrow the important event is broadcast on M6, then they will watch this. And this rule applies also to series, be it Friends or another one that I can watch on NT1 or on another channel. This is the main debate, and this channel principle is being challenged today. Yes, indeed. And if you consider the viewer and the consumer's perspective, you see that the concept of channel operators, TV manufacturers are of a secondary importance. And then you see that in the forefront, the viewer's interest is the main vital element. This is why we decided to start and lead those discussions together in order to foster the consumer's satisfaction and in order to achieve a winner situation. HbbTV is only a part of the discussion within our forum. Tomorrow, any TV sets and devices will be open to compliance with our formats. We worked on the field of standards, content protection, using REM and other tools. This in order to foster content quality, this in order to foster premium content, because the producers do not want people to copycat their content. We, first of all, left this aspect aside, but then we are at the second step when we are working also on this aspect of premium content. As a French broadcaster today, if I want a catch-up TV to develop a catch-up TV application, there is no standard. We have a few common grounds. We have APIs that are quite similar for boxes or TVs. And we also saw a few developments in the field of HTML. HTML5 is coming up, offering a common LTI. I've been discussing that with a few manufacturers, and I know that they're working on new generation devices that can also are compliant with this HTML5. Now, if those various devices, set-top boxes, TV sets, and other are compatible with this same standard that may enable good quality applications and good picture quality, then I think that the LG strategy will settle at the gospel truth, which means that from the perspective of manufacturer, you see that this new market evolution is going to set the trend, taking into account the browsers and other necessary plugins. Well, talking as the Orange representative, I have to say that we look at those connected TVs and consider those that are the most compatible. Lately, we had a progression with the Xbox and saw that the consumer is core to the approach and has to express its needs in the first line. If I have at home my teenagers who want to use the PS3 or another one, my work consists in offering them the same service using LG or surfing on other channels. If I watch a TV program and I then later on want to play the matching game, then this should be possible without any obstacle. So again, we are considering the consumer's need and working together. I do not want to work only as an operator in order to keep my very client. We are all working together, and in the French framework, we see that TDF, TF1, and other broadcasters, FTV, are on the table together with broadcasters and manufacturers. In France, we have some specific features for HbbTV. Let's produce those and let's make them operable to the French consumers. Typically, nowadays, we see that HbbTV took on this HTML5 and started working on new developments regarding multi-screen applications and other such things.
Move on now to the next theme of this panel discussion, devoted, unless Marc, you'd like to react, possibly? I thought I'd get you to react, and you seem to be itching to do so. The second theme is multi-screen strategy. Now, we've seen here that more than half our TV viewers have been using a second screen in addition to their main TV screen. Let's get José to react on that, on how broadcasters, in his opinion, today react to this new consumer attitude or usage, and how they approach the marketplace and the use of a second screen. José, please. Well, we've just had it translated.
I don't speak French. I hope that.
Don't be sorry. Well, it's
no, but I hope this is not related at all with the Spanish bailout. So, anyway, we have a great figure on the Mediometry presentation. That is basically the TV consumption. It's growing. It's growing. Linear is growing, and we cannot forget that. Sometimes we spend our time talking about HTML5, HbbTV, connected devices, but our kids, our wives, ourselves are sitting down in front of the TV more than 3 hours, nearly 4 hours a day. That is an impressive amount of time. Okay, and more than half of that time is linear. So we have this thing that is called channels, broadcasters, content aggregators, call them whatever you want. And they are the biggest marketing tool for the promotion of content ever. Okay, so if you're a producer, you know perfectly that the best way to go and have a brand and reach the consumers is through these content aggregators. And it's not becoming weaker, it's becoming stronger. It's becoming stronger because of the audience.
And actually, the second screen is used a lot for social networking, and this is driving live TV consumption.
It is actually. So, trying to answer the question, there are several initiatives out there trying to basically monetize whatever is happening on the big TV. You know? And if we go to the trending topics on Twitter, it's always, or almost always, related to what's happening on the live TV, okay, on direct TV. Our experience is that the applications that really work are the ones that are promoted by the broadcasters. You have good initiatives like CBox and others that try to basically try to be horizontal and promote the content from all the different linear TV propositions. But at the end of the day, they don't know what is going to happen on the big screen. They don't have the content in advance. They can only be reactive. They cannot be proactive. And when one is sitting down on TV and wants to know what's the profile of that guy or what's the background of this goalkeeper, the only one having all this content in advance is the broadcaster and the content producer, and they work in teams. So my belief, and maybe I'm wrong, is that the best way to be able to monetize the space is to have the space. And having the space means creating your own tools, like the iPlayer on the BBC, obviously not for advertising, but all this initiative of having their own tools in the second screens are the winning horses.
So that's what Spanish TV channels are doing. They are developing their own apps for Android, for iOS, running on those secondary devices?
They are. And more than that, they are doing something that is essential, that is synchronizing the experience on the second screen with the first screen. Synchronization is key. So if the device...
So can you give us an example of an application with this kind of interaction?
Yeah, imagine basically you are watching a football match, and you have basically a goal. Then you need to have the link appear on your second screen immediately to be able to watch the goal again. But to do that, you need synchronization between both worlds. You cannot have a static application on the second screen. This is something that is slowly happening.
Differentiated content for the secondary screen?
Absolutely.
Including video?
Including video.
So for replay, for example?
Yeah.
Slow motion replay. But can it be also some kind of interaction like questions or polls or whatever?
They are trying. Obviously, we are in very early stages. But as I say, basically at the end of the day, you have eyeballs. And the eyeballs are on the screen or on the second screen. But wherever they are, they need to find real estate in which you can promote advertising. You need to monetize the second screen as well. And you need to be the owner of the second screen real estate to be able to monetize that.
But how can you be the owner when users are spending their time on Facebook or probably preferably Twitter? Twitter is an application, so can you embed Twitter in the broadcaster application?
Yeah, basically,
how would you do that?
If you cannot fight it, basically you need to join it. The way is when the user actually joins the content, there's a hashtag. So you need to have the hashtag, and you need to have Twitter embedded on your system, your real estate as well, on your second screen application. If you want to be in a horizontal world, you don't need to deploy your application. You don't need to do anything, but someone else is doing that for you. It's going to do it for you. Okay, so if you are able to combine the open horizontal social spaces like Twitter or Facebook in your application, then you can offer extra content and you can monetize the space.
What I hear a lot from TV broadcasters here in France is they have more costs but not necessarily more revenue when they develop apps on those devices. So what's your views on that? How can you drive a good balance between revenue and cost when you're addressing those new devices?
As I say, the only way is synchronization. The only way is to be able to offer what the user is looking for. You have the BMW ad on the big screen, and you know how difficult it is to make people make a phone call and basically book an appointment. And they go to the web page and they do that, but if you can basically press the BMW banner that is appearing on your second screen at the same time the BMW ad is on the big screen, then you monetize that, and it's a big added value on that.
Alexandre, tu veux réagir?
Oui, je pense que le mot...
The key term here, the key term is synchronization, José, synchronization. I was particularly interested in TV that only alone can synchronize with those flows. Can you hear me, José? Sénteme. Excellent. So this is the new technology here that we're talking about quite clearly. The main benefit of TV here is to be able to react live with through voting, systems of voting, social messaging, accessing those social networking and messaging through live screens. You've got social, then information, comments, reactions, a dual screen. Then with the keyboard, you can use the tablet to write something, phone, or to write something, make a comment. So these social networks basically will, and the applications, TV applications, apps will improve, but at the same time to be able to have video that will be different from live flows, but will be complementary to them, or information that would be more then enhanced than before, than TV. So what we need here is a separate application, because we're going to create our own channel here. And that's why multi-screens today are useful, worthwhile, that can boost then the TV viewer's experience, who can then choose his or her channel. And we're going to see a lot more then thinking amongst producers now today to maybe then think about episodes or a different type of sequence or sequencing that will depend on reactions from these viewers. So I believe that synchronization is the key, as José has mentioned. Then that will involve voting, direct reactions, votes, that double dual screen through the keyboard, then to then respond, but videos and certainly additional information, all that will now become different, and the channel will need to do something and make a difference, strike out a difference, be distinctive. We're going to move over to Juve in Germany. How does that work for you? How do public TV channels in Germany from the ARD and other private channels deal with the second screen in their own strategies, Uwe? Well, this is in a testing phase currently. We're trying to create an interlink between programs, an interface, and other information such as voting systems that we're sharing more. Now, we're trying to create events, then broadcast events. It could be the Eurovision Song Contest, football matches, Tina twittering, and so on. So in Germany today, we have teletexting, which is still very widespread, very popular, but we're now trying to combine more with Twitter, teletexting, and this is working. So to understand you, Uwe, then what does it look like? What does it look like, Uwe? Well, if you look at if you're watching a program, a context, you can make comments then on the program. So it would be a comment on Twitter on the screen that will appear on the TV screen, so that your TV screen will show that comment. And that could be done. Is it in the broadcast flow? Absolutely. It could be. It's interactive, totally interactive. It's a way. If you want to view through, is it an option? Teletexting is optional, is it? Through a editorial, then Twitter, then comment. But are German TV stations developing their own applications today for these Android or Apple devices? And are they doing that in Germany? We are talking more about a second screen now in Germany. It could be an Apple or Android screen that is now being tested. What we want in Germany today is to offer applications that are Android and Apple based. Can we have can your TV station offer a second screen then? In terms of standardization, can the technology then offer that currently on Alexandre Fourmond's TV, on a tablet, then an American tablet? It's a question I think you should ask the TV viewers whether they would accept it, want it. But if they were given the choice, they'd presumably accept it if they were given the choice, but it's not happening yet, is it? It's possible, it's very possible. Could it work? For broadcasters, yes, of course, I believe it can. It's important that we do control that application, that we have control over it personally. That's very important. To see whether this is can work on a main or a second screen. We're going to move on to another topic. Then on, do you want to react immediately there, please? A comment on then HbbTV, then on another device currently available. We need to pitch this somewhat differently. The application on other devices may exist. Then what's happening? HTML, for example, typically the idea now is. Then I talked about TV5, which will then combine TV applications, then PCs, mobile, then phones, maybe on a refrigerator in the future. So the idea is to have a language that the developers can use for any of these devices. I think that's the point. That's what we need to move towards now more and more, and that's where the future lies. Then on other screens. Another important point here, we talked earlier about this somewhat, is that users, what they want, whether they're watching a TV, a football game on TV, this requires that they need metadata. We need metadata on the content, on broadcast streamed images. We also need to be identified, to identify ourselves then, and you're going to have to pay for that too. Today, when we look at Apple Store programs, you identify yourself once and you pay a fee, and that's all you need to do, just once. So it's a per program, then subscription or usage system. Then you will give your credit card, bank card details if you're buying, I don't know, if you're watching a TV screen with singers' performance, and if that singer is wearing a beautiful dress, well, you might want to ask where she bought that dress and identify with that. That's the point. That's the point, you know, with that beautiful dress that singer is wearing. So above and beyond content, then you need to also look at what the viewers, how the viewers can retrieve the information to create added value, generate sales revenues. And that's something, these are the areas that we need to work on and develop today and standardize. Metadata based on content, and also then methods of payment as well, José. Don't you agree? So what we need is the marketplace today. The operators, the manufacturers now need to standardize more and hurry, move apace here. Those platforms, then Google and Apple, then as they either use that or introduce that technology, the European fragmented marketplace can't do much about it. So it's what is key and crucial here is time to market, and I fully agree that we need to move quickly, but we should not run before we learn to walk. So basically Google today, then since we've been hearing about Google now for months and years, at the moment they haven't got there yet. They haven't got there yet. Google apparently is the scarecrow. The scarecrow. How do you say that in Spanish, José? The scarecrow. Haha. So. So basically, we're not there yet. People who have been working with Google then on Google TV at the moment, have got cold feet. They turned a bit chicken there, José, right? So, absolutely. Premièrement,
what is Google TV? Because we don't know yet, okay? We know what we have been told. I love Google. Google is fantastic, tools, etc. But Google TV is now a mix of technology and content, and we don't know where the technology ends and where the content starts. Okay? And as far as the technology is clearly differentiated from content, it will be easy to collaborate with Google on the expansion of their payment platform, on the delivery of their content through their network. We can have a big debate here about if we want to give Google the control of the delivery network or not, but this is another issue. Okay, if we, and when I say we, basically I put myself in the content world. If we feel that Google is trying to be the one delivering the content, we can have the perception of our margins being squeezed in the future.
They want to get some share of the advertising revenue. So
yeah, no, it's not only advertising.
That's why broadcasters are kind of
imagine you are Disney or you are Fox and you are sitting down in your big office in Los Angeles now, and usually you have 300, 400 people knocking your door looking for distribution agreements, okay, from Comcast, Cablevision, everyone in different countries, and you define the margins. The day you have only 3 people, Apple, Netflix, and Google in your door, I will tell you who will define the margins. Okay, so that's the big thing, and that's why, in my humble opinion, Google is not getting much success on getting to the first distribution window on the digital television world. This is a big challenge for them. So, as far as we clarify the situation or their positioning, the better we will feel in terms of the negotiations, I guess, from the content perception.
Good. So, en fait, je peux rebondir sur Alexandre.
I could come back to Alexandre for a moment there, who's part of the manufacturers there. One of the manufacturers is working in the US with Google TV. How can we interpret then this trend? Then what is MG's strategy here in this respect, and what is it leading to in France and in Europe? What's certain is that we should never, close any door. We should stay open, stay on good terms with the market, then as with OS mobiles, for example. Absolutely, we're talking about OS mobile, but if I pick up my phone, use my phone, it's a black rectangular, then with a black screen here. Then Marc, then as I work, Ajek said, well, it's an LG then, you know, okay, it's an ALG, but it could be also a Samsung or a HTC or another brand of phone. It's a product, a device that has been manufactured, but the value and merit and the content of it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the operator alone who's selling it, who's selling this, and who would be paid a fee, a commission on it. So the content maker might then post profit, would post profit. So when we're making, then manufacturing the device, apart from the after sales headache and trouble, of course, then we have no other value. So that is a hardware vendor's then message. Well, that's just what I am. So shouldn't we go beyond that now and try and change that? If you have your own OSs on different... Samsung tried that with Dadas to come up with its own operating system, but it didn't work. Nokia tried that with Symbian and its web application. That didn't work either. That wasn't successful. Apple had a major breakthrough then with its own then offering. Then... and we congratulate them, but it's a very closed world today. So that world needs to open up today. Otherwise, I'm not sure there will be a continued success. Google, then, which came in through its own search engine, then, of course, as we can see on the web today, then has many benefits and is trying to also develop that, and it's always worth discussing that with it. But TV today, and the last screen that was not connected to the internet, and which today is one of the latest opportunities we have, then with a major market potential, then on the content market, we miss that opportunity on mobile TVs. What we want to avoid is to missing the TV opportunity now, which is available through these portals. So what we need to find are alliances, partnerships on the mobile, in the mobile Apple or Android technology world. This can then help us to gain a foothold in the television market. So either we can discuss this with Apple or Google. Then Apple is a closed world, so we then automatically turn to Google. Now Sony, with its Google TV application launch in Europe, tried this, but unfortunately Google then came in to the market and said that we are going to rule the roost, rule the market. And what the manufacturers didn't take into account is user-friendliness, ergonomics, or user-friendliness. This is something it did not really take account of at LG. At LG, then today, when we look at Google TV, it's basically centered around a content search engine plus an application store, then, which is more recent, and another then missing link in Google's strategy is live TV consumption or usage. Take the Sony TV application, that is different. You've got the remote control where you can change channels, of course, and then with a network, with a keyboard now where you can access different Google servers. LG has a different... Do you have a different strategy at LG or not? Or will it be a similar strategy? We are testing this. The tests are now being conducted in the US. With Google, we are in discussion. So the point is that we will not launch Google then, or we will initially launch it only on a single range of products, but only in the US. Only in the US. There are no plans at the moment to launch Google in other countries, not in Europe either. So this is very much in a test phase. So Google, unlike what was done by Sony, has been included in the LG portal. So when you enter that portal, you will find different applications plus access to Google. So Google TV has a function here in your existing environment, then working environment. So bearing in mind that the impact that Google may have is pitched differently and we know that this may, but that may open up, or that world may open. Its doors may open. So it's giving us a distinctive position pitched today. When Google was launched in Europe, in France, they came up with a TV set with a very, very strong image position. Clearly, this was a major block. This was far more a hindrance than a help to Google when it launched that in Europe. So LG then appeased Google, did it? Well, it looked, we are currently reviewing what that impact could be, because when we look at the way these apps are used in connected products, we've just got 3, 4, 5 applications at most in total. So you need far more to reach those individuals, but those individuals will only have 4 or 5 applications, no more, which is 80% of the usage rate. So these TVs, are they available? They were supposed to then be launched in the spring. They are being launched. How do US broadcasters react? Were they as negative as well as when then Google TV was launched versus LG's strategy? The feedback I've had then has been very positive on the whole. Google today does not have a image booster position, but through a portal, I'm leaving then the image world with my remote control to move into a multimedia world and into an interconnected world. So we've separated here now, distinguished those worlds. The initial approach was to then separate the screen. So it's basically a Trojan horse, is it not? Then, absolutely. Would you like to react there? Would you like to react then Uwe or then José to Google TV, to TV?
Just a couple of quick comments. As far as Google TV is the Android of the TV, or basically we are talking about the technology platform, is fantastic. Okay, the initial Google phone, the first one was terrible, was awful, and functionality was slow. Okay, and now Android is close to dominating operating systems on mobile. And they will learn the same experience if they are allowed to in TV, and it would be great. It would be great because we have a big fragmentation on operating systems on TV, so it's good. It's good if they include HbbTV player on it, hopefully, okay? Yeah, but one comment is we tend to forget that people sit down in front of the TV to watch TV. They switch on the TV and they try to watch content.
That's what Google forgot initially.
Okay,
clearly, yeah.
If you remember the first remote control on Google TV that was showcased, it looked like the control panel of the International Space Station. So it was absolutely impossible to imagine that on a living room table. Okay, so I don't think that this is the future of Google TV. I think that there is a future for Google TV as an Android application on TV, but I don't feel that my family is going to use the TV to navigate on the internet.
Could we say that Google TV was some kind of too US-centric? No. Because in its design, it looks like it's being done for Gen Y users who don't want to watch live TV because they are sick of advertising, which is kind of
I wouldn't
way
say that
over
this is
used
US.
in the US.
I don't think that this is a US thing. I think it's more an engineering thing. It's engineering thinking instead of thinking
because
on the
when you have people from
experience.
Silicon Valley or Gen Y people in this space, it seems that there is a generation of people who don't like live TV. They consume only TV series through Netflix. So it looks like there's a kind of phenomenon in the US which is not that significant in Europe, which may explain the strategy of those players there. The perception that live TV is dead. I mean, if you look at the average age, for example, of TV consumption in the US, it's 55 years old for the big networks. It's not that high in France or in Europe, but it's between 50 and 55 as well. Some TV channels are even above 55, up to 60. So even though Médiamétrie is showing us that, okay, everything is okay, people are consuming TV live and more than before, it looks like there is a trend coming from the young generation that we have to observe to some extent.
I wouldn't say that I'm 55 and I'm a geek, okay? And I basically, in Spain, you download series and you watch series every time. And I have been doing that on my laptop for years. Until now, I can connect easily the laptop to the TV, and actually don't do that anymore with the laptop. And I sit down the TV and I said, Coach Potato, now I learn how to synchronize my experience on live TV and on the online TV, and this is what I wanted.
When you look at the data, in the US, there's about 24-25% of consumption that is non-linear, so not live TV. In Europe, I think it's less than 10%. So there's a big gap in the shift in TV consumption between the US and Europe.
But the big challenge is to be able to include this on-demand content on your grid. The sooner you do that, the sooner you will have not 10% but 80%. And this is basically what people is looking for, is easy access to the content, but not a search tool. That's not the point. It's not a technical thing. It's just having basically on your grid integrating not only the present and the future, but the past as well. And catch-up TV is just part of the grid, okay? So retro EPG, they call it now, whatever, okay? And being able to search the content, but through recommendations. Okay, you have George Clooney, and then do you want to watch another movie from George Clooney? Fantastic. It's what people is looking for.
Mohamed?
Oui, juste une petite réaction par rapport à la consommation.
To comment on TV consumption, we should not separate TV from the global context. We see that actually the content consumption is changing, is evolving. So we have to review it, we have to display it in a new way, we have to take into account a certain amount of new criteria, and the easiest one is events. Typically, everyone is watching live cast when there is an important event, Super Bowl, be it Super Bowl in the United States, a hockey game on Sunday in France, the European Cup or tennis championship. People watch those events in live cast because it doesn't make sense watching them over catch-up TV. So we have a certain amount of non-changing points of reference, and then you see that the derived or other kinds of contents may be consumed over a second screens or other devices. Still, we should bear in mind those constant factors. Last topic, the telcos and their collaboration with broadcasters. I saw Marc Charrière, who was very impatient and has been since the very beginning of the debate. Marc, you're from Alcatel, and Alcatel is using operators' technologies, so you have a very good overview on the landscape in this field. I don't think we have the main overview, but we consider ourselves as structures for those networks, and we're always very pleased to see how much achievements we can get after a few years. Now we are dealing with interconnected TV, we're dealing with this issue and asking ourselves currently the following questions. Actually, the current networks are still a kind of cloud in progress, and we can understand why, because we're used to having one device, watching it, choosing it, and then getting a bill from the operators. So what are the reasons for this situation? 4G, what are the networks? 4G, 3G, 4G, this is a rather technical side. So considering that, we think that it's not going to work. For instance, earlier on, we were mentioning one application when there is a goal during a football game and then you're watching it on a multi-screen. If you want to watch again this goal, currently you cannot do that with your smartphone. It only works if you have 50 viewers watching the same goal at the same time using the replay functionality. So, together with operators, we've been carrying out experiments with mobile high bandwidth broadband in order to set up among stadiums and during the events a few devices enabling not only 50 people to get connected, but 5,000, 10,000 or even more. We saw that on this location, Stade de France, we have a Wi-Fi and a Twitter installation. I'm really mentioning the hardware, the devices for the pipes, because we are really the hard workers on this. We're very pleased with this function as a plumber of the infrastructure. Now, we see that the current networks, the 3G networks, also that haven't achieved their 100% connection rate, and other current networks are only enabling us to consider the very onset of multi-screen, and we consider those multi-screen as an obvious necessity. So this is why we need to work on this, because when we have this massive use of the applications that have been mentioned, there will be a need for a higher level of network, which is called high leverage network, including high-level networks with very high capacities, broadband, bandwidth, but also with top qualities in terms of synchronization and latent qualities. The latency should be improved because we see that in a few war games and other games, it is not possible to play those games using a mobile phone because the latency is too high or the speed is too low. If you play on your mobile phone against a person who's connected via DSL, then you're only losing the game due to technical matters. So this is an issue, and currently we see that we have loads of improvements as regard 3G and DSL. Why? To this end, in order to allow a massive TV-connected service to be consumed. So we have on the one hand TV broadcasters and service providers who are working, but in these TV offerings, you should reach 100% of the population, the total population. In other words, those networks should be made available everywhere, and there is a second aspect. Connected TV includes a whole range of new services, which are a development of traditional TV, conventional entertainment TV that we've been mentioning already. These are series and so on. But we'll also see a development towards social TV, and not only digital or virtual, but also the social aspect in terms of health, e-education. And so what can you do in this field? How can you provide personal care services without connected TV? You cannot consider personal care services at a large scale without any connected TV with 100% coverage. Okay, now mentioning broadcasters such as TF1 or FTV in France, they say that the TV sets have difficulties and are not that compatible with a HbbTV. We also know that other users of social TV like Facebook and Twitter use a much smaller bandwidth. Yes, indeed. France Télécom, the French telephone operator, is working towards a optimization of the bandwidth. And then we're looking at a goal in 10 years' time for optical fiber. And we need to make the decision now because the network development will last for 10 years. We need to install the fiber. We need to build all those structures. So this is the time aspect. We need 10 years works. And then on the other hand, we should not use too much bandwidth. This is this debate about net neutrality. Okay, this panel, this roundtable is not dedicated to net neutrality, but I would like to stress the fact that from a technical point of view, we want to use this net neutrality in such a way that, given the fact that we're using the same pipe as in the IP, which is carrying all the several signals, we need to have a hierarchy. We need some service classes in order to convey all those services. So our position on this net neutrality is that we can have a very fair differentiation among or between several classes of services. And I think once we have connected TV, this issue of net neutrality should not be burning anymore. Okay, and regarding LTE, do you think that mobile TV should come on top of the agenda? Well, LTE has the main advantage compared to 3G, which is that the broadband is 10 times higher than the one in the IP. And then we also see that it is a quite similar comparison to the one we had with DSL internet. I think when broadcasters will start setting up those second screens, I think we need more than 2 screens. But anyway, when we'll have this second screen application over LTE, then the situation is going to be much more easier, because as it was, as they started to develop internet applications, they will have the same structure. And we see that 3G is less open as a technology. It's more related to conventional phone technologies, and therefore you need some very strong partnerships with the telcos in order to implement those technologies. In other words, LTE is making it easier for broadcasters, and this should be working good if we have the necessary networks for that. Therefore, it is necessary to optimize, and until we have those high-level, high-leverage network, we can still work with broadcast streaming mixed with minicast, and the user would not see it. For this, we would need platforms set up by broadcasters and operators. So if you have a program with only 3 viewers, then you should rather use a unicast. And then if you have the live cast at Stade de France, then you'll use the broadcast. In other words, you need to choose the right platform in order to optimize the use. Okay, we need to stop the debate. I might take some questions from the room. Do you have any question? I see 2 questions at the 2nd, 4th, and 7th range. We wait for the microphone to come. We're on live cast on the internet, so it's better for you to have the microphone in order to ask your question. It is coming. We have a latency for the microphone too. Yes, this is a physical determinant. Good morning, Romain de Rhône from Blinkers. My question includes a bad word that's called peer-to-peer. We don't mention this topic, but it might be a solution in order to optimize replay and catch-up. Marc, do you want to answer this? I didn't hear the question. Optimizing the networks using peer-to-peer. I don't know which application you're considering, but disregards video on demand. Okay, you can call it as you want. Anyway, the use is more or less legal or illegal. Of course, there is another way, option for optimization. It is a CDN. Those CDN consists in bringing some content into the network closer to the user, also managing the streaming so that this one stream is not used many times. It is a solution equivalent to peer-to-peer. And the other option would be the cloud platform that are developing and enable us to optimize the network. So you'll have a peer-to-peer system, including CDN or clouds, but not an illegal peer-to-peer. So from the technical point of view, it is exactly the same optimizing principle. So, Romain, I think your question was not raising such a burning issue. Good morning, Régime Saint-Géron from AEDETI. We mentioned very much the HbbTV, and I have the feeling that in Germany, France, or in Spain, there is no communication for the general public considering this connected TV, and we are lacking a clear communication on this new platform, bringing in new services. So how can you improve that?
You need services on air. You need a commitment from the manufacturers that when people is reaching their TV and they are looking for something that they are watching on the ads, they find it. Okay, you cannot afford any more deceptions in Spain.
So you need critical mass, a critical mass of services that we don't have right now.
I think the steps are really clear. Okay, and it's a short-term path. The first movement is to agree on the tests, interoperability tests, to have a common framework to check that everyone, broadcasters and manufacturers, are on the same page. We are working on that in Spain at the moment. The second one is you need the commitment from manufacturers not only to go through the tests, but to activate without any further need, just to activate HbbTV on the devices. And then you have a set of services that need to be broadcasted before you go to the real, to the shops, basically, to the distribution networks, to retailers, and promote that. But these three steps it needs to be followed in this order. You cannot tell people, okay, you have HbbTV, you have services, and they go to the TV and they don't find services. We did that with MHP, and it was a disaster. So
it's okay. So there's a matter of marketing synchronization.
Pour répondre à la question sur la...
Answering the question on the advertisement, today in France we have no ad considering for other technical devices. So why should we do it for HbbTV? Well, currently we see that we have this TNT 2.0, DTT 2.0, which is based on a communication for the general public. It is a program for interactive DTT, and this is brought to the customer, for example, in the shops. When the customer is coming, he can see this new option, and there we have an option for communication. But communicating on the standard itself doesn't seem to me to be the appropriate solution.
Kind of campaign this year, because we had the switch off of analog satellite in end of April, and now we feel that HbbTV is in the market, so we should promote it. And we will do it as a campaign of a round table. In Germany, we have a TV platform, which is a kind of union of broadcasters, manufacturers, and net providers, cable providers. And we want to do it together. We have a kind of white paper for commercial requirements. And one of the major points is really to have a campaign, because public who has who has bought a TV set with HbbTV doesn't know what is HbbTV, and the word HbbTV is not very sexy as a abbreviation. So we tend to speak of
there was no campaign on HTML
smart TV.
Well.
But if you go into a store and I want to have a TV set with HbbTV, what?
Okay, but the difference between Germany and France and Spain is you are at least 1 year ahead of us. So it may explain maybe why you're ready to do this kind of communication. No? Probably. No? No. Okay, forget it. Reda, dernière question?
Okay, last question. I have a last question. Sabrina Charrière from HbbTV. My question is asked to Mr. Fourmond. We see that regarding HbbTV, we're mainly mentioning Germany, France, and Spain, but we forget that the Netherlands have started, also Austria, Luxembourg, and the Czech Republic, but also Turkey and Russia have started working on this. So what is the landscape today? Where are the compatible TV sets today, and what kind of development should we expect for the coming years? Well, HbbTV is a European standard, which is of great interest for the manufacturers such as LG and other ones, because they have a global scope. And when we set up a platform, we don't set it up for only one country, but for one continent. So we may have some specifications, for example, Great Britain, but we want to assure that we produce one same product for one single continent. So setting up the HbbTV dimension, our goal is the following. Many countries haven't started yet with the HbbTV, but they will see products coming up that will be HBB compatible, so that the chain will decide whether or not they should inform their audience of the fact that this product is HBB or not. So very often we see when new apps are launched on the market, we see that they are already compatible, but this is not advertised on. So when we're now turning to the smart integration and HBB integration towards second screens, we see that it's easier for us to have one single structure incorporating all those technologies and to sell it in countries, even if in those countries compatible sets are not on the market. So at the beginning of May, we'll have the same integration at European level. We have this European standard and a gradual access for the several countries to our connected products. Last question. Reda from Jolie TV. I have one statement and a question. In the US, we see Netflix, we see Hulu that are launching initiatives. We don't see any similar projects in Europe. What happens? What is the situation? Can we see that there is a sort of closed approach on the continent that is an obstacle, a hindrance to competition and to advances? We see that the evolution for HbbTV is moving forward, but very slowly, and doesn't meet the market needs today. Well, I'm kind of outside of this area of service providers today, but we see in the United States that the internal market is very consistent and is implying a various amount of standards. If you see Apple starting an iTunes platform, they first negotiate the copyrights with a single continent or an area that is as big as Europe, and there is one single negotiation. If Nokia tries to do the same, they need to conduct multiple negotiations with those multiple countries. So this internal market is a vital factor to the situation. Then you have the broadband network. We saw last year in New York that the 3G network was almost exploding, and then 1 year after, we saw LTE and optical fiber that have been massively set up. So these are some specific situations, and we don't know how we are going to deal with them, because we're not the ones who are making the decisions upon the new upcoming services. Those who make the decision are the users, the SMEs, and so on all over the world. But they have an internal market and a technological platform that is exceptional, and this was blatant in the latest years, and this is the major problem in Europe. We also have the announced crash down of film funding system in France, including Canal Plus and other ones. So I now give the floor to Cognac J in order to move on to the usual flow of this conference. Thank you very much for this very interesting debate. I suggest that we have a short break. Thank you very much. We can meet here and talk about social TV in half an hour. Thank you very much.